Alrighty, guys, welcome back. It's your boy EQ. Up next, we have What's the Dirt, blaming Kendrick Lamar for weaponizing the cultural shift in hip hop that, according to him, is terrible for hip hop. We're also going to be looking at the egregiously erroneous conversation surrounding streaming numbers and the real reason that Drake is number one. But don't worry, Dirt. The UMG attorneys have all those clips logged in, and honestly, a bunch of the fans also do as well, of you speaking about Drake's weird relationships with minors. But enough dilly-dallying, let's jump right into this What's the Dirt post, because I was definitely not going to let this one slide, where he went on to say, I said from the beginning that these guys were losing their damn minds with the cultural shift narratives. Battle was terrible for hip-hop. Kendrick weaponized division, intentional or not. Post he was talking about is this one right here, which states only 4 rap songs chart on today's global Spotify, the lowest in 9 years. And this buffoon clearly has a memory issue. Hip hop was on a major decline up until the beef since 2018. In 2023, the genre's market share on the US Spotify Top 50 was at an all-time low, only to have a resurgence coincidentally once the beef kicked off. It was very stagnant, guys. I'm going to read the article speaking on this, but the cult of the OVOites have proven themselves to not need facts to rationalize their delusion. So obviously this isn't going to sway them, but I definitely had to debunk this false narrative. All right, let's jump into the article. You've been following hip-hop news in the past year, and mind you, this was actually written, I want to say a month or two after the beef actually kicked off. All right, so it reads, if you've been following music news in the past year, there's a likely chance you've seen the words hip-hop and decline sharing the same headline. Throughout 2023, the fall of the music industry's genre giant became a widely discussed and hotly debated topic. While many argue that the genre's fall in market share is something of a concern, others noted that its lack of chart preeminence is due to a variety of factors, but it's not necessarily unpopular now, and it's definitely not. And we all have to remember that basically every genre has been borrowing from hip hop, whether it's the production or the rapping, because this latest resurgence of country music has definitely been guilty of that. According to Chartmetric's Year in Music 2023 report, hip-hop rap artists were the biggest presence in music in 2023. A lot of it, too, is also because it's so oversaturated. In terms of release volume, a similar pattern followed for tracks whose most dominant genre was hip-hop rap, both all-time and in 2023 alone. So while the sheer number of artists and tracks in the genre is certainly growing, it begs the question of whether the scene is becoming too saturated. And I think the biggest problem is that everyone just happens to sound the same, at least for the most part. When everyone is using the same flows, the same cadences, you get the issue we were having, which is a stagnant genre. After celebrating its 50th anniversary this past year, it's uncertain what the future holds for the beloved New York-born style. While its lasting influence continues to fuel scenes around the world, has American hip-hop lost its place as a default? No, America still has the stranglehold on that. There's definitely a bunch of dope scenes around the world, but they're all influenced by America still. And if you have to blame one artist or say that one artist has to release music for the genre to survive, then the genre or whatever it is honestly doomed from the start. I feel like other than a handful of mainstream rappers, man, there's a supreme lack of creativity and inspiration. Is hip hop really declining? And honestly, another point I wanted to point out too, there's a lot of people just doing it for the bag. They have no real passion for the craft, which is obviously hurting the genre. While the genre's presence or lack thereof on the top charts isn't always an exact reflection of overall health, there's no denying that hip hop's been on a significant decline on the charts in 2018. Kendrick Lamar had nothing to do with the decline. He was actually able to reinvigorate it. You know who was dropping records during this time? Drake, and a lot of them. At the beginning of 2023, there was an all-time low in hip-hop's monthly market share on the USA Spotify Top 50 chart. However, just 1 year later, an obvious resurgence has emerged, bringing hip-hop's current average market share for 2024 to 34%. And what happened last year that caused this? There was a renewed energy in the genre. People were dropping records, and hip-hop was the main topic of conversation when it came to music. I mean, you had people that never seemed to give a shit about hip-hop asking for your take on the current situation between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And this is definitely something that the cult of the OVOites and What's the Dirt does not seem to comprehend. I feel like these people just talk just to talk. None of them really have any knowledge of the industry other than what they read on Wikipedia. And just because you have a mic and a platform doesn't mean your take is valid. Here are the actual charts from 2018 to 2024. It's been on a steady decline, guys. When compared to other genres, pop has seen an overall increase since 2018, and the unfair thing about pop is that almost anything could be considered pop. Latin has also made substantial noise since 2022, but honestly, other than Bad Bunny and Karol G, the genre itself has kind of leveled off as well. A lot of people that work in the industry over on the Latin side, I myself have been blessed to work with a lot of those artists, and yeah, there's definitely been a decline over the last year. averaging a share of nearly 11.2% over the past 2 years. With these figures in mind, one can infer that the growing shares have muffled whatever noise hip-hop still managed to make. And again, as far as the Latin and pop stuff, they are all influenced by hip-hop. Bad Bunny has a bunch of records where he's rapping on trap beats. And pop has the same thing. There's a bunch of people rapping. Doja Cat is rapping on a lot of those tracks, and we're hearing 808s everywhere. At the global level, Spotify's top 50 global chart saw a far less steep decline, falling by only 24%. It's clear that scenes outside the genre's home country have continued to hold their weight. Another genre that isn't listed here, but a lot of labels have definitely been putting a lot of money and attention behind, is Afrobeat and world music. The YouTube Top 50 charts can also help analyze hip hop's global view. As far as share, the trend followed suit with a drop at the start of 2022. Still, 2024 looks promising for the genre, as the beginning of quarter one accounted for an average of 11.5%, followed by 14.2% at the start of quarter two. I think quarter two was when the beef really got heated. No matter how you slice it, hip-hop rap does appear to have undergone a dry spell on the top 50. Still, that doesn't negate the genre's ability to produce dominating, long-standing chart toppers. I mean, we had Not Like Us and Luther, which definitely dominated, and we also have Nokia. And even though Academics wants to claim that Drake gets no radio play, Nokia obviously made some noise earlier this year, even though that song is just an afterthought now. In the first quarter of 2024, a rap project has secured the #1 spot on Billboard's Top 200 list for each month. 21 Savage's American Dream, Ye and Ty Dolla $ign's Vultures, and Future and Metro Boomin's We Don't Trust You, respectively. Singles are also dominating, and according to Complex, hip-hop already has as many #1 songs in 2024 as it did for all of 2023. So what damage did Kendrick Lamar do to the culture due to hip-hop when he obviously revitalized it? Obviously, he's talking out of his ass yet again. When analyzing genre presence on the top charts, it's also important to remember that these shares indicate the top percent of artists, not necessarily the majority. The fluctuation in presence almost always depends on what projects superstars are debuting. And there was definitely a very big dry spell in these superstars actually dropping projects before all this happened. If Drake releases an album, the overall share of hip-hop tends to increase as the project takes up space on the charts. And yeah, a lot of times Drake is releasing these projects with like 40 records, man. While the long-tail decline can certainly give a sense of what's going on in the mainstream, there's always a larger story to be told under the surface. Again, most of the opioids just look at things on a surface level, and even then they get it wrong. Hip-hop artists are releasing outside of their genre. And that's also something that's really important to understand as well. Shabuzi had one of the biggest songs of last year, and that was very much hip-hop inspired. And then we also have a lot of other artists getting into the pop lanes and getting into other genres as well. As music becomes increasingly global, and we also can't forget people like Gunna and Chris Brown. And while Chris obviously isn't technically a rapper, a lot of these people are doing those Afrobeat collaborations. The lines between genres continue to blur. This is particularly true in hip-hop, as many Western artists are beginning to release tracks outside of the genre's traditional sound to engage with new audiences worldwide. And these labels have definitely shifted their focus over the last few years to world music and Latin music in particular. So while genres like Afrobeats and reggaeton surge, obviously, thanks in part to collaborations with major US stars, the sonic view of mainstream hip-hop is also starting to change. And I feel like it just has to evolve. People have been sounding the same for a long time, and again, when everything sounds the same, nothing stands out, nothing's truly special. So when a project does come out that changes the soundscape, it's obviously going to get attention. The Emerging Artists section of Chartmetric's 2023 Year in Music report highlights this trend within hip-hop, with an identified 125 emerging artists that rose to fame in the past 3 years. Those artists were significantly less likely to release track within the hip-hop genre in comparison to other genres such as K-pop or Latin music. And K-pop is another genre that has a lot of hip-hop influences as well. I know a ton of writers that go out to Korea to write. I know a bunch of producers that go out there to produce. It's clear that artists associated with the hip-hop genre have no problem breaking out of the past 3 years, such as Ice Spice or K-Flock. K-Flock is locked up now still, if I'm not mistaken, and Ice Spice has definitely fizzled out. However, the majority of emerging hip-hop artists release significantly fewer hip-hop tracks, instead exploring genres such as electronic, pop, R&B, and Latin, which is very smart if these other genres are thriving. The prevalence of these emerging global scenes can also be noted in comparing the breakdown of the top 100 artists and tracks on Spotify in 2023. For tracks, Latin dominated pop, accounting for 23%, while hip-hop saw only 10%. On the other hand, hip-hop was the second most prevalent genre for artists, again behind pop. This suggests that even though there are fewer Latin artists, their tracks are more influential today among today's most streamed songs. When you have somebody like Bad Bunny doing the numbers he's doing, We have somebody like Carol G doing the numbers she's doing, and probably artists that you may not know, people like Fate, who are doing massive numbers. Again, the genre has definitely leveled out a bit. There's only a few now doing those massive numbers. So there definitely should be an update on this article. Honestly, Bad Bunny now is a pop star. You can't really relegate him to just the Latin market. And again, the guy's definitely very hip hop influenced as well. Here we have the actual breakdown of the genres. There are issues with the genre labeling when Western music is no longer the default. Again, guys, I've said this before, this is the music business. Whatever they're making money, they're going to hedge their bets on. Since the inception of the modern music industry, its scope has remained Western oriented for nearly a century. The same story follows for hip hop and rap, where the primary tracks that have dominated top charts and radio are released from artists in America. So much so that 68% of the top 50 rap slash hip hop artists globally by chart metric artist score are from the United States. Here we go. See right here, number 7, Bad Bunny. Like I said, definitely very hip hop influence as well, even though he does jump into other genres. That guy's pretty much a fusion of every genre at this point. Today, thanks to the impact of digitization in music and the rise of social and streaming platforms, global sounds are breaking through the noise in ways that were never traditionally possible. The internet has definitely leveled the playing field, guys. You could be from anywhere now and hear music from anywhere, but American music has definitely influenced the rest of the world when it comes to making their own music, at least for the most part. But as scenes like Afrobeats and reggaeton move up to compete, artists from outside of Western regions are forced to separate themselves from umbrella-like terms like hip-hop by adding regional terms like Latin or African, unlike artists from the US who really are required to use terms like American hip-hop or American rap. And most of the time, it's just called hip-hop or rap. Maybe outside of the US, but honestly, anytime I go out of the country to go work, they all just say hip-hop or rap. This is the issue with the genre data at large. For example, an artist like Bad Bunny is typically classified first as a Latin artist, but also he should be equally labeled as hip hop. He has a lot of rap and trap records, given that most of his discography would be categorized as Latin hip hop or reggaeton. What is the most defining factor for genre in today's age? The sound or the region they came from. When analyzing one of Spotify's top African music playlists, African Heat, 35% of the tracks are labeled as African, with hip hop slash rap at 15.5% and Afrobeat at 13%. However, when at the artist level, the primary genre becomes hip hop slash rap, tied with dance slash erection, so not African or Afrobeat. And honestly, a lot of these genres and subgenres do blur the lines. A similar story follows with K-pop, where 69% of tracks are categorized with pop, according to the primary genre, but only 17.8% are classified as hip hop. I mean, they're literally rapping over trap beats and singing over dance electro records. K-pop is a genre that's definitely influenced by the outside world. On the one hand, lumping non-Western artists into basic genre categories prevents their real sound from being accurately appreciated, specifically for black artists and black music. Lumping African in with hip-hop dilutes the meaning and origins that make the genre unique in the first place. On the other hand, not including an Afrobeats artist like Rima among the top hip-hop slash rap artists fails to denote his identity as a rapper. While breaking into the Western market may not be every artist's goal, it is one of the most reliable paths to financial success. Again, the Western market are the biggest consumers. However, when hip hop is labeled as the dominant genre of black artists, the decline of the genre can also mean a decrease in budgets, attention, awards, grant money, and more. And we also can't forget that the labels are going through a massive change now. A lot of these labels are going tech first now, and they're going music second, which is crazy, given the fact that it's the music industry. A lot of these labels are merging, and honestly, if you're not one of the main money makers on the label, you're just probably going to get shelved now because there's a new regime in charge. Therefore, it's crucial for artists to use qualifiers when discussing terms like decline. This is especially important as genres not explicitly labeled as hip hop, such as mainstream Latin music, are experiencing growth. There's a valid concern that genres that have drawn influence from and benefited from hip hop may gain attention while sidelining hip hop itself. It seems to be a lose-lose situation for artists outside the borders of mainstream music. The Eurocentric nature of music and pop culture devalues and diminishes artists from non-Western countries. As an industry, we critically need to start rethinking the way we define genre. And honestly, I think it's going to be really hard because we are blurring the lines so much. Thinking towards the future. Hip hop's influence is so pervasive that it has become a fundamental component of almost every dominant and emerging genre, including K-pop, Afrobeats, and Latin music. And again, we're hearing it even in country, and we're hearing it a lot. However, it's not always feasible to label everything as hip hop, which can lead to its dominance being overlooked on charts and playlists. Yeah, because obviously that market share is now getting diluted by the other genres using hip hop as an influence. This is why it's critical to continue paying attention to hip hop, not just within the US, but globally. Ignoring hip hop because it appears to be in decline risks losing sight of local hip hop scenes and the rich cultural expressions they represent. As globalization becomes more prevalent and the US loses some of its cultural dominance, understanding and appreciating the global evolution of hip hop will become more important. And honestly, I feel like this year we have definitely seen a lot of that with albums like The Clips and the Freddie Gibbs Project doing great. I truly feel like we have so many artists out there that are basically just making music for the bag. They're not interested in the craft. They don't care about the culture. They're just doing it for money. I feel like stuff like that and the fact that everyone just sounds the same is what hurt hip hop. And it's most definitely unfair to pick on one artist and say that the genre is now hurting because of what they did, when at the end of the day, they rejuvenated the genre. It's up to the rest of the field to now go take the ball and actually produce. I really want to look at some of those What's the Dirt comments before we look at the streaming numbers. Bro, we had like 5 really good hip hop albums that just released this year. Again, the Clips are heavy contenders for not just the rap album of the year, but for album of the year, period. Kendrick didn't weaponize division. The two biggest, most diametrically opposed fan bases in the genre were placed at odds with each other, and that was always going to end up with this result. The tribalistic, pretentious nature of elitist purists on one side and the parasocial, numbers-obsessed nature of the other side were too far at odds with each other for any other outcome to exist. Putting this on Kendrick is out of bounds. Correlation does not equal causation. Exactly. This isn't because of the battle. This is because the genre for a long time has become stagnant. Exactly what I've been talking about literally this whole video. In terms of the mainstream stuff, and the quality of stuff has long since stopped having mass appeal as it pertains to the mainstream, save for a few notable examples. And yeah, I agree, man. You can't blame Kendrick Lamar. You gotta look at the genre as a whole, and it's been this way for quite some time now. As far as over the last few years, honestly, it's been a lot more candy and sugar and a lot less actual substance. Or maybe people was tired of hearing BS, bring back bars and actual good music. GNX was able to chart, the culture wants the music back. And things like this definitely take time. Like I said, we're going to need the genre to actually step it up. But the fact that we're seeing the Clips get the buzz they're getting after having like, what, over 20 something years in the industry, and after such a long hiatus, at least for them as a group, man, we're definitely moving in the right direction, but we're going to need to see more. One of these guys just doesn't release music and they're trying to make him the guy. Iceman will restore order. And if you're thinking Iceman will restore order, man, I don't know what you've been watching over the last month and a half. Honestly, scratch that. Over the last year and a half. Those Iceman records have not only not had any staying power, but honestly, they're not really getting any excitement. The highest one charted at 2, and like 3 to 4 weeks later, it's at number 54. So if you're looking for that to do anything, man, unless we get some type of Hail Mary, man, you're going to be heavily disappointed. So it's Kendrick's fault and not the fact that a major label is being sued over rap lyrics. And that's definitely egregious, but I don't think that's what led to this decline. I remember Vince Staples was doing an interview and they asked him about the battle, and he sidestepped the question and started talking about labels laying people off, cutting budgets, and mergers. Looks like we're seeing the effects now. Now labels are waiting for you to do the work. And it's honestly been that way for a while now. They want you to basically get your own motion. And once they do, they'll put all the money behind you. I think the fact that they were putting on so many of these industry plants and these artists and dumping all this money just to see no return has definitely affected them. If you really look at the music industry for these labels and you actually look at these label situations, you'll see that literally it's like 3 to 4, maybe 5 artists that are basically keeping the whole label afloat. I remember back in the day, Lady Gaga had an album that didn't even do that bad. I want to say it did less than expected, but a little over 200,000 first week. But because she did that amount, which now would be seen as great, they actually suffered massive layoffs because of one artist. Welcome to Kendrick Lamar's America. Error. And you can't blame him, because if this decline started in 2018, who was the most active rapper? Exactly, Drake. This is an accurate take, not endorsing anything other than the words typed here. And you, sir, are a buffoon. That's such a Karen take, and that's What's the Dirt. Obviously, after all that backlash, anytime he speaks on Kendrick Lamar, he exhibits such disdain. Stupid take, I most definitely agree. The whole world thought Drake vs. Kendrick was hip-hop's series finale. And no, I think you're totally wrong. At the end of the day, it's up to the genre to capitalize on the eyes, and it's not going to be done by releasing mid-music. Shut your bitch ass up. Weaponize Division to become king with that same lazy work ethic of his. LMAO can't make this shit up. And I can't really say that when he's probably the most decorated rapper out there. I've actually said this multiple times. But yeah, once you put your art out there for public consumption, you open it up to not only praise, but you open it up to criticism. But at the end of the day, you can't tell an artist how to create, when to create, or who to collaborate with. The fact is, projects of the caliber that Kendrick Lamar have released take time. These are concept albums for the most part, which is a method that's honestly really rare these days. But there's a story interwoven from track one all the way to the end, and that's going to take time. And I'd rather take inspired music than just microwave music that gets forgotten in a week. Explain this then. Rap music has seen a 20% decrease since exactly. That's just the article that we just read, basically. Been a great year if you care about the quality of the project. 3 rap albums could land Grammy nominations for Album of the Year for just the second time ever. And I'll definitely take quality over quantity. So yeah, Dirt, just another swing and a miss with this bullshit narrative. And now, guys, onto the streaming debate. People love throwing numbers around, but fail to show the bigger picture. Drake has close to 500 songs last time I checked, to Kendrick Lamar's 240 or so. So if we even them up, they'd probably be really close to neck and neck. And we also got to remember, Drake has been dropping music over the last month, so that's obviously going to lead to a surge in his streams. Kendrick Lamar hasn't dropped any music since last October. And obviously the Super Bowl performance was going to be a very big but temporary surge in streams. But the fact that Kendrick Lamar is doing all this with literally half the records makes the fact that he was able to beat Drake in monthly listeners even that much more special. But like I said, the fact that people want to focus on Kendrick's numbers after his very historic halftime show is ludicrous, given these events consistently give artists these huge streamings, with them now being exposed to people who had never probably thought to ever listen to him before, but with now seeing him become genuinely interested. And Taylor Swift is a different beast entirely. She's right behind Drake in streams with just around 275 records. So Ovihioites, just relax and do your due diligence. A simple Google search would invalidate most, if not all, of your narratives. Let's actually look at those numbers. They're actually right over here. And this person seems like a cult member themselves. Drake's the most streamed artist on Spotify currently, which is insane considering Taylor is dropping soon. Again, soon. So those surges haven't yet hit. This person's take is already invalidated. And Sabrina just did. On top of that, his catalog keeps getting new peaks on new songs each day, while For All the Dogs is climbing fast as fall season is upon us. And those new songs are fading just as fast as they're being released, crushing an insane Europe tour while also giving us innovative creative live episodes for Iceman album rollout. And that Iceman rollout has to be one of the least effective rollouts I have ever seen. The job of a rollout is to create anticipation, to create hype, and it seems to have done the opposite. When you have actual Drake stans basically saying, what the F is this, and just give us the album already, yeah, you're probably doing something wrong. All this while his leaks are slapping harder than most albums, and he's still got time for crazy features, giving Julia Wolf, Yeet, and Cash Cobain huge surge in their numbers. And this guy's a buffoon because Yeet actually does better numbers on his own. How are we really questioning the throne at this point? Forget rap, we talking music across all genres. Wicked. This person is just another imbecile that obviously doesn't have their facts right. They just look at some numbers and think they know it all. Taylor Swift almost has half the records that Drake does, and she's literally right behind him, and not by much. If Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, or Kendrick Lamar were dropping at the same clip as Drake, the situation would look totally different. And I know these comments are going to be hilarious. Joe Budden is a crazy hater, but he didn't lie when he said Drake really be the foundation of this ecosystem, aka culture we all cherish. Again, if we have to rely on one person to save the genre, then the genre is basically dead. And I don't think that's the case, but it should definitely be a wake-up call. And honestly, I feel like we've seen enough dope projects to feel that hip-hop is going in the right direction. Every other genre is being influenced by hip-hop. And I definitely think that that's something that's really understated. There's nobody like the boy. And right now, I don't think anyone wants to be like the boy. Seems fishy. Maybe they should look into botting on Drake's side. Drake is going into this situation thinking he's going to expose the big bad machine, only to probably expose himself the most. If anyone benefited from these alleged tactics, it's going to be the person that was their golden goose. And who's going to have that inside knowledge? Yeah, the people that created him. Not buying it. I don't wish this Kendrick's freefall, even my worst enemy, at all. And you, sir, cannot write. How do you go from 50 million to 19 in less than 6 months? That's crazy. Does this guy not know what the Super Bowl does to your streams? I don't know what type of success was that. And honestly, given the fact that Kendrick Lamar has half the catalog as well, him doing that is legendary. And this is exactly what happens when you're not releasing new music. It's been close to a year that Kendrick Lamar dropped GNX. But I'll say this, once the tour kicks up again, which I'm really excited to be going to soon, over in Mexico City, he's obviously going to get some huge surges again. There's some real dumbasses out there. Damn, for a hip hop page, you post nothing but that nigga. Gotta get off your knees at some point. And yeah, that's honestly what a lot of these pages are doing. They're not looking at facts. And if they are looking at numbers, they're not telling the bigger picture. They're not telling the whole story anyway. Hip hop was already on a very steady decline since 2018. All Kendrick Lamar did, honestly, was reinvigorate the genre. It put new eyes on it. He put a bunch of new eyes on a bunch of people that probably weren't going to get that type of exposure without his platform. And if your argument is that one person is the make or break of anything, whether it's music, technology, sports, you have already lost, fam. But definitely let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Do you guys think that Kendrick Lamar led to this cultural shift that is now terrible for hip hop? Or do you guys think that this was a trend for a long time and Kendrick Lamar actually gave the genre CPR? But definitely let me know what you guys think about that. Also, let me know what you guys think about the streaming numbers. Do you guys think it's fair to compare streaming numbers when one artist has basically double the catalog? Yeah, I'd rather take the classic albums over the hundreds of filler songs. Definitely let me know what you guys think. Definitely hit the like and subscribe button, guys. It does the channel wonders. I really want to thank you guys so much for continuing to make this channel a part of your day. It honestly means the world to me, and all the love and support that you guys continue to show this channel on a daily is honestly overwhelming and probably the biggest reason why I make these videos. So I really want to let you guys know how grateful I am for all of it. I definitely want to send a major shout out to all those that have been joining YouTube memberships. Small way to support the channel, but definitely goes a very long way in helping out. And also a very big super thank you to all those that have been sending super thanks, because again, that help is tremendous. And I really want to let you guys know how thankful I am for all of it. Also, if you guys want to send video recommendation ideas, definitely follow the X account and also join the Discord. Both of those are probably going to be the easiest way to make sure I actually see those recommendations. And both of those will be in the pinned comments and also the descriptions. Definitely let me know what you guys think about all this. Hope you guys love this video, and I hope to see you guys soon. Not only is he a culture vulture, but he's probably one of the most buffoonish media personalities in hip hop.